Now, governments worldwide draw their budgets from money collected in the form of taxes. But a recent survey by the Washington-based International Budget Partnership reveals that many governments provide very little to no open information on their budget. Such governments tend to be undemocratic. The survey group's director, Warren Krafchick, says Africa ranks low on the Open Budget Index of about 85 countries worldwide, but has potential to improve.
The lowest scoring region is actually the Middle East and North Africa. But if one removes South Africa and Botswana from the sub-Saharan African scores, sub-Saharan Africa is actually the lowest performing region on the index.
South Africa ranks number 2 of governments that open their budgets to the public after the United Kingdom. That's pretty high up.
A major factor has to be political will. So when South Africa's transition happened in 1994, I think what one found is there was a strong leadership and there was a strong commitment to transparency that's been carried through. What it means in practice is that the public really in South Africa has access to a pre-budget statement. So several months before the budget is actually tabled in the legislature, citizens know what the major decisions will be. And then at the end of the period, there's a very strong and an independent supreme audit institution that provides information on performance relative to the government's promises.
This report also mentions how the public can make very concrete improvements in their lives by having access to their government's budget records. How exactly are people empowered?
One should consider a country like Uganda, for example. In the 1990s, studies that took place in Uganda showed that the vast majority of the national government spending did not reach local government schools and hospitals that it was intended to. And the reason really were leakages, including corruption. Several years later, after the government started publishing in the newspapers the budget figures or budget disbursements from the national government, we found that corruption actually turned round, and the vast majority of the expenditures were reaching schools and hospitals. A big part of the reason for this shift in corruption was that an organization such as the Uganda Debt Network worked with its community members to track when a particular grant reached a school, how that school used that grant, and then they would collate that information and take it back to the national government.
What do you recommend that the citizens of a country can do to pressure their governments to make the budget more public?
The government is raising money from the public and spending the public's money. So citizens have a right to access information about the government budget. Citizens should investigate what information the government already produces that they do not make available to the public. For example, Sudan scores 0 on the index, but actually it produces 7 of the 8 documents already for its donors.
Why would a country like Sudan, say, make parts of a budget public to one segment and not the other?
A country government is more accountable to their donors than they are to their citizens. And so I think we need to look very carefully, we need to think very hard about how international donors, who are playing a vital role in supporting many countries, can ensure that the foreign aid that they provide plays as positive a role as possible in improving budget transparency in those countries.
What was your impression on how Africa fared? I mean, you have South Africa among the top 5, you have Botswana, Papua New Guinea, Kenya, Uganda, quite high up, at least above 50. What does that say to you?
A number of countries, such as Kenya and Uganda, have improved their performance substantially over a very short period of 2 years. Now, if this group of countries, from low-income to middle-income countries, can do well, there's no reason why every single country in Africa, from Sudan to Rwanda, all the way through, cannot substantially improve their performance and help the continent become known as a continent that's open and transparent and accountable.